On who and how many people pass. Anyone who provides education and training must have a compulsory responsibility that calls on everyone
I'm advancing this argument with only one consideration that has weighed against all other considerations. What is in the interest of the Federation at this moment? Let me repeat what I have said above. It does no longer matter who is within Cosatu. I've just ended that, or just added that. Nothing excited me more than that statement. I felt vindicated that I did not walk out of the CC, that I had exercised patience in pursuance of worker unity, and unity that I have repeatedly stated as sacrosanct. I maintained my participation despite the fact that 7 unions wrote to Cosatu suspending their participation at the CEC. Everybody who cares to follow this unfolding saga will know that these unions and others have steadfastly defended my rights throughout this period. Many suggested that attending any CC in their absence would be suicidal, as this will be tantamount to me delivering myself on a silver platter to union leaders who have mobilized for my personal removal from my position since 2012. I chose to ignore that advice, and I attended the CC held on the 19th of November 2014, not as a desperate act to keep my job safe, but because I believed that the Cosatu National Office Bearer statement referred to above truly held the potential to take the Federation into a different direction. My presence in that CC somehow helped, and I was happy with the broad direction the CC took, even though not with some of the decisions it made. Notwithstanding that, I attended a press conference on the 20th of November and articulated these decisions of the CC, some of which antagonized those who provided me with that support. And that statement is again printed in this overall statement for you to look at in your own leisure. And I'm not going to take you through the content of the statement. The statement was basically not very far from the statement the office bearers have issued on the 14th of November. Let me emphasize that notwithstanding the fact that I was not happy with one or two of the decisions, I was excited by the prospects these statements opened up. There was a setback immediately, however. The sources from within the CC went to the media to say we as the National Office Bearers have misrepresented the CC. Satau wrote a letter to the NOBs advancing the same point. Other unions, including Nihau, phoned the president making the same argument. This put a spanner in the works, and suddenly I had doubts about where we were going. Still, based on the statements above, I had faith that we could forge ahead. Cosatu issued a joint end-of-the-year statement emphasizing the point of unity as the departure point for 2015. I do accept that the open letter I wrote in response to the SSCP General Secretary public attacks on me upset other leaders who agree with the sentiments that were expressed by him. I stand by every word of what I expressed in my letter to the SSCP leadership. By the end of the year, we had the president of Cosatu issuing his own end-of-the-year statement, underlying increasing tensions as a result of this. I was still relatively happy however, that the NOBs will pull together after their January 2015 meetings. We were all aware that the ANC was working to get meetings with their affiliates. Some meetings with few affiliates were held in this regard. This all encouraged me that the process was underway. There were, however, unavoidable delays in what the ANC was trying to do because it had to mobilize for its own January 8 rally that we all know took place in Cape Town, and that the Deputy President was spending more time in the Lesotho mediation process. The clock was ticking, taking us closer and closer to the CC scheduled for the 23rd to the 26th of February 2015. I knew, as I did, or as all the other NOBs knew, that going to the CC without a package to resolve the stalemate will be a disaster. This will put me in an invidious position, particularly as it will be the second CC meeting I will be attending without almost half of the Cosatu unions participating. The NOBs wrote a letter to all affiliates convening this CC, but indicating that we would postpone it subject to us getting a concrete package from the ANC process that will make the CC itself to be productive. Not surprising, BOPCRO immediately responded, rejecting the NOB's argument that the CC may be postponed to give the ANC task team more time. Later, the NUM, Nihau, Sipau, and Satau wrote us almost identical letters, clearly from a caucused position, agreeing that the CC can be postponed by a week, but insisting that this was not being done to give the ANC a chance, but because the NOBs were not ready with the preparations. Once this happened, my hopes suddenly faded. I knew trouble was on its way at that moment, and that I was going to face again the same dilemma of attending the CC with about half of the affiliates maintaining their suspension or participating, and without any progress on a facilitated attempts. When the 7 unions held a press conference on the eve of the CC announcing that they will not attend the CC, I knew that at that moment, that I would not be able to repeat what I did in November 2014. So correction, 2014. I wrote an email to the NOBs that evening at about 8 o'clock. I also announced in the next morning through the social media that I will not be able to attend because I did not believe that going ahead with the CC in this context was going to be a good move to unite the Federation. This is the view I still hold. In my view, the Federation should have immediately after the 11th National Congress held in 2012, September, correction, as well as after the February 2013 CC, let alone after the November 2014 CC, stopped everything, and I mean literally everything, in pursuit of unity. Unfortunately, this did not happen. I feel it is important that I briefly trace this history littered with missed opportunities to cement the unity of workers under Cosatu. Yet, after all of these processes, Cosatu is now on the brink of a total implosion. I have no intention of reading that, it's quite lengthy. the members of the media do have the statement, and the public will have the statement in full. But my plea will be, those who call themselves journalists, the transmitters of information, must read, so that this continuous misrepresentation of history stops. So I did this briefly, comrades, for about 2 or 3 pages. But in my own records, I've written actually very substantially, tracing this disunity in the Federation from the beginning. 2011 Central Committee of the Federation, where there was a big discussion amongst all of us as to whether the National Democratic Revolution was in course or was off rails. But you know, in brief, that in the run-up to the 11th Congress, certain leaders publicly announced and a lot of times presented themselves as the sources of the media to say that the General Secretary of the Federation have to go. They needed him replaced. You know that after that Congress, this leadership, having lost dismally in that Congress, having failed spectacularly to achieve that political goal, sought to use the smaller but important structure of the Federation, the CC, to achieve the goal they could not in the 11th National Congress. So at the CC held in February, they launched a blistering attack on the General Secretary, accusing him of being the elephant in the room and accusing him of political deviation. They made statements that the Federation is in a state of paralysis, the same paralysis they are denying today. But they said that this Federation was in the state of paralysis in February 2013. And they said the General Secretary supposedly have deviated. In February 2013, that the General Secretary must be put on suspension and that a commission of inquiry over their unfounded allegations must be put in place, including the fact that the General Secretary was supposed to have benefited from the sale of the Cosatu buildings and the purchase of the new buildings. The CC agreed that there is a problem that must be solved and set up a special committee to facilitate the unity process in the Federation, led by Charles Nupen and Petrus Mashishi. And I'm not going to go in all of the details because I have attached their statement to the October 2014 CC in preparation of the Central Committee that never took place last year, that indicate that they were withdrawing from that facilitation owing to the fact that there was no cooperation from the people who were making the allegations. What we are dealing with here, comrades and friends, South Africa, is that a statement was made by the then Nihau General Secretary, Fikile, nicknamed Slovo Majola, who is now a member of parliament. He, in the CC, both in February and in the May 2013 CC, had said that the Federation have to be split and that the NUMSA and the Cosatu General Secretary must be surgically removed from the Federation, and that he did acknowledge in that May CC that this will create disunity, and that, but he said they as the faction are prepared to allow a split in order to build Cosatu afresh. And Fikile Majola went further to repeat this very historic statement in an interview that he did with the Sowetan. And I have attached just the introduction of that interview here. The full interview can be traced back to the Sowetan of the 25th of March 2015. But let me quote something very, very interesting that he said. The headline said, "Split in Cosatu unavoidable," says Nihau Majola, 25th March 2014. He says, "What is happening in Cosatu is not healthy, but unavoidable. We are far down the road. I don't think it can be stopped. The person at the center of this crisis is Zwelinzima, and he does not want to find a solution," he said. He went on to state, and is quoted here, "We can re-establish Cosatu on correct principles, build a strong Cosatu and can direct its affiliates. But we cannot do it with those who say," please underline this, "we cannot do this with those who say Vavi or nothing." End of that quote. We cannot do it with those who say Vavi or nothing. Meaning, all those unions who have provided me support, the 9 unions plus this new federation that Fikile Majola was speaking about, would exclude them. Read that interview. No condemnation, no nothing except a round of applause given to him by the faction that have now formed in the federation. The allegation of the GS being a spy was to resurface through a fake intelligence report circulated by the Cosatu president. The SADAW General Secretary Zenzo Mahlangu gave an interview to the Mail and Guardian making wild conspiracy allegations against the Cosatu GS. Again, those who want to know the facts and who are not going to jump into Twitter and say things they don't know will have to read that interview again. And those who are interested in the truth will have to go and find that fake intelligence report. This statement that the Cosatu General Secretary was made initially through innuendos in a Central Executive Committee opening remarks of the Cosatu president. But the General Secretary of Nihau, standing right there, accused me in my face that I was actually a spy, employed to destabilize the unity of the Federation and cause all the mayhem that is contained in that fake intelligence report. Whilst all of these shenanigans were unfolding, the people making these allegations about the political rupture, the deviation from the Cosatu resolutions by the GS, or him being an agent of international or imperialism, were not keen to back up these allegations through the Cosatu agreed to process of Petrus Mashishi and Charles Nupen. Later, this faction, now in charge of the CC, was to separate the work of the Goboto, or Zwelinzima Goboto, and the work of the Charles Loop and Petrus Mashishi Commission. They pushed that they must be separated because they convinced themselves that Zwelinzima Goboto will find something that they can use to achieve what they failed to achieve in the Cosatu Congress. So I was subjected to this investigation for the past 2.5 years. My laptops were confiscated, I have to hand them over. My personal bank statements, I have to hand them over. I know that they even raided my telephone records to try and find this evidence that they were desperately trying to get in order to hang a corruption monkey on my neck. They couldn't succeed. As we speak, there's absolutely nothing that backs all the headlines contained in the Sowetan newspapers over a period of time. Nothing they can find. I was taught one thing by my parents, Umazenja and Anoketiwe. Don't take someone else's property unless you have been given. That's what I grew up with in my church. You don't steal from the poor. And I'm very happy and I'm feeling very proud that notwithstanding 2 forensic audits, they can't find the millions they printed in the newspapers. They can't find a cent. This that you see, this legacy of the workers have been built, and we spent 12 million rands in refurbishing this building, from the mats to everything that you see that makes you proud as workers. 12 million, they thought that some part of the money would have gone down my pockets. They couldn't find 1 cent. They have every receipt in place. I wonder how many of them can go through the same scrutiny. But then I committed a serious blunder for which I apologized, and I called that blunder an own goal when I fell for a relationship with a Cosatu staff member. Suddenly, the old agenda that always existed to remove me was now going to be the platform of using the mistake I committed to achieve political ends. So where are things now as we stand? We now have a situation where 7 of our affiliates have written letters informing us that they are suspending their participation in the top structures of the Federation, in between the national congresses and central committees, the Central Executive Committee. No serious attempts are being made to address their concern. NUMSA, our largest affiliate, now with 365,000 members, has been fired, and steps taken to replace it with a new affiliate called Limosa, which has not even had a Congress to elect leadership, with unverified membership of 1,670. The impacts include putting the Federation into an absolutely unviable financial situation. Cosatu is currently spending 300,000 rands above its levels of affordability or income. Cosatu staff could only be paid in February and March by raiding the political fund designated for other purposes. This source will dry up soon. Campaign activities, the core of our work, will be curtailed, and there is the likelihood of having to go with a begging bowl to our class enemies for money to hold a Congress later this year. This is a recipe for complete loss of independence politically. Our research institution, Naledi, and the Chris Hani Institute will have to close down very soon. The shop steward, now only receiving 10% of its income from the subscriptions of affiliates, will not be able to sustain itself any longer. More so, this building we are sitting in will not be sustained, in particular when there is an insistence by the tenants to stay in here for free. The Special National Congress petitioned for its, in terms of, let me repeat, the Special National Congress petitioned for, in terms of the Constitution, more than 2 years ago, to allow members a say in resolving the crisis has not been convened. Very few affiliates have escaped factional politics, which has ravaged Cosatu, and many are fracturing as we speak. Hundreds of leaders are being purged either for showing signs of loyalty to the demands of those demanding a special Congress or for blowing the whistle on corruption. Few affiliates have sought or received mandates from their members on how to resolve the Cosatu crisis. A worrying number of scandals relating to corruption and the abuse of power are wrecking the trade union movement. Hardly a month passes without us reading in the newspapers allegations of millions of rands being embezzled or misspent by union leaders. The Cosatu General Secretary has been subjected to a sustained campaign of vilification and slander in an attempt to force him out. The various interventions and attempts at facilitation have either collapsed or are stillborn. ANC task team report has been sidelined. The report was not perfect, I admit, but if it was engaged with, we would have avoided reaching this point. Today, I want to thank all those who have worked hard to save the Federation from imploding. The paralysis of Cosatu have left workers defenseless on the ground, demoralized and angry at the leadership for betraying them in this fashion. The once mighty Cosatu is slowly being reduced into an irrelevant toothless dog, whilst the material conditions of workers continue to deteriorate. Unemployment is sitting at 35%, and in particular, youth unemployment is at catastrophic levels of around 60%. Today, we rank number 8 in the whole world in terms of unemployment and number 4 in the whole world when it comes to youth unemployment. A staggering 54% of our population is living in poverty, with 12 million unable to put plate of food on the table every night, and half of the population being food insecure. More than 35% of workers are employed as temporary or subcontracted labor, and wages have been suppressed while so many companies' profits are at record high. Half of the formal workers earn less than 3,300 a month, and South Africa is now the most unequal society in the whole world. Marikana and Ditwarrens have happened, indicating clearly that workers will still live in effectual unions that do not take up their workplace issues. Some unions have lost their plot as some leaders seek to use workers only as a platform to go to Parliament. 70% of all workers do not belong to any trade union in South Africa. Government and capital have wasted no time in taking full advantage of our weaknesses. E-tolls have been implemented. The youth wage subsidy has become a policy, and previous conservative macroeconomic policy have now escalated to full austerity. The anti-worker neoliberal program contained in the NDP have been rammed down the throats of workers. The Cosatu 11th National Congress responded to all of these, yet as we speak, most of those resolutions have been sidelined in favor of pursuing an agenda to purge political opponents. So, in conclusion, this is a sad day indeed that I have to call today's press conference to announce, after much introspection and in consultation, that I have come to the conclusion that I have reached the end of the road in trying to resolve the Cosatu internal crisis through using traditional organizational means, i.e. engaging in the boardrooms and having discussions with everybody. I have taken this decision after 2.5 difficult and most painful years of factional battles and deepening crises in a federation which have been so loved by millions of workers, not only in our country, but all over the world. Beyond this summary I've already given, I don't intend to go through a detailed repetition of the sorry, sordid history of what has taken place over nearly 3 years. That is not the point of today. Rather, we are trying to inject a dose of realism into an assessment of where we stand, and to send out a clear message that time for a new approach has arrived. And that workers will not stand by while the leaders fight it out in the endless boardroom battles. If leaders are workers' servants, then we leaders have clearly revolted against the mandate that we must at all times serve our members. This situation cannot continue for a moment longer. From this point, I will no longer participate in internal factional wranglings in the organization. I will rather dedicate my energies mobilizing members to the best of my ability to implement the mandate of the 11th National Congress and to address workers' daily concerns and struggles. This is what I have been pursuing for the last period, in particular in the recent period, and I will continue to focus on this for as long as I am allowed to do so. I will not attend meetings of the Federation whose sole purpose is to pursue the factional agenda of one grouping, no matter how powerful they may think they are. Legitimizing such meetings is tantamount to giving credibility to the idea that these are genuine forums to resolve problems. In reality, such meetings are only mechanisms to annihilate opposition and agenda of a powerful faction parading under the semblance of constitutionality. Therefore, I cannot attend the pending Special Central Executive Committee meeting, which is being convened not for reasons of uniting workers, but purely for the purpose of dealing with me and the perceived opponents of the dominant faction. This meeting, like the meeting of the 2nd to the 4th of March, is not even trying to create a pretense to constructively intervene to resolve the dispute. No serious attempts are being made to reach out to the group of unions suspending their participation at the CEC. Through, after the March 2015 CEC letters, after the March CEC, letters were written to unions that have suspended their participation, pleading with them to return back to the Federation. However, the reason for their suspension of participation is not engaged. They have been told that they must accept that NUMSA, and now with its 365,000 members, have been dismissed, and that NUMSA now must appeal to the next ordinary Congress. It is said that NUMSA will not be allowed to appeal to the Special Congress, which NUMSA, together with 8 other unions, called in the first place. This refusal to allow NUMSA to appeal in the Special Congress is again a blatant violation of the Cosatu Constitution. If my refusal to attend the special CC is used as a pretext to fire me, so be it. There comes a time in the life of every organization and every individual when we have to submit to the dictates of our conscience. I, for one, will continue to do what I can to serve the working class, but I refuse to feed into an illusion that the current CC, constituted by a dominant faction in the boardroom, is still a genuine forum to represent the members' interest, although every organizational bone in my body have resisted arriving at this drastic conclusion. If, however, there is a dramatic turnaround and some genuine opportunities present themselves for advancing a project of unity in the Federation, I will continue to make myself available and vigorously pursue any realistic perspective or prospect to resolve this crisis. I can honestly say that as the General Secretary, I have done everything in my power to avoid us reaching this moment. There are no victors, but the bosses and the beneficiaries of the status quo. The biggest losers from Cosatu implosion is certainly the working class and Cosatu membership in particular. It is with this sense of humility that I make this announcement. We must all share individual and collective responsibility for reaching this point. The only thing I can claim that we have spared no effort in the struggle to rescue our beloved Federation from division, factionalism, and ultimately implosion. The various facilitation attempts, including that of the ANC, are no longer even on the agenda of the CC. The call for the ANC to review its intervention is meaningless in the context of the refusal to reconsider the dismissal of now 365,000 members. The campaign of public vilification and smearing of me continues uninterrupted, and it will be intensified from now on. I will be called every name under the sun, just like I have to endure that for so many years in my life. And I don't know whether people continue to make this mistake and think that it is going to make a change. I've been called everything within this alliance. I mean literally everything, from counter-revolutionary now imperialist agent, from an ultra-leftist to a lover of Helen Zille and the DA, to a person who's crawling over to join the EFF, everything have been used to hope that that mud will stick at some point. What I do need to place on record, however, is my response to the string of public allegations which have been made in an attempt to drag my name through the mud, and I append a 24-page summary of my response to these drummed up allegations and the chronology outlined in the role of the Zwelinzima Vavi investigation and why I have been left with no alternative but to respond in the manner that I have. I have no intention of reading that now. I wanted to do so, but take it as read. Accompanying that statement is files, not one or two, 3 files, that shows that the document I'm being accused of having signed alone were actually signed by most of the Cosatu National Office bearers. So if there was any genuine thing going wrong, it can't be correct that one individual, the General Secretary, is guilty when others signed. Secondly, it is not possible in the Federation that 1 cent can leave our bank accounts without 3 signatures of other office bearers. Not possible. And yet people who have signed the documents have turned around, raised no finger in the CC when I'm being blamed for being the man at fault in relation to everything that is not there, by the way, that there is absolutely nothing that have gone wrong, I must say. They are hanging me on a policy that does not even exist in the mind of the 2 officials who misled the Zwelinzima Vavi guys to say this is the policy. There is no such a policy. The policy of the Federation from inception is categorical. For every work above 2,000, get 3 codes. And in every instance, we managed to get those codes. Where was this policy when Cosatu held congresses, central committees, CCs? Why was it not being used? Why nobody knows which date it was adopted and in which CC? How do you work with people who do those things to you every day? Where do you get a tape to go around taping every conversation you have in the National Office Bearers and in the CC? Knowing very well that just few months are down the line, the very same people will not acknowledge even when they have signed the document themselves. What is the way forward? Of course, comrades, they wish that I can resign so that they can have parties across South Africa in their top boardrooms tonight. Their champagnes, expensive champagnes, are in the ice because they have convinced themselves that I'm going to run away. I'm not going to run away.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Let the champagne bottles get off the ice. This is deliberately an act of defiance on my part, even if it ends just as symbolic. It sends a message to workers that we must refuse to hand the organization over on a silver platter and must only walk away when all alternatives to rescue our federation have been exhausted. I'm refusing to make it easy for those who are trying to hijack the organization and those who want to take control of the federation out of the hands of its members. I'm making a statement that Cosatu belongs to its members, not any faction or clique. Those who abuse their power, including majority, in an attempt to take this ownership away, will not have an easy road. It must be clear that if I and members of or affiliates leave the organization, it is only because we have been left with no alternative. We are now trying one last ditch, an attempt to reclaim our organization from below by mobilizing members to assert their rights to control their movement. And if this fails, then history will record that we tried everything in our power. If all avenues are closed, we will have no option but to walk away. But this is ultimately a huge decision, which only the members and workers more broadly can make. If members decide there is nothing further that can be done to rescue the organization, I will respect that decision. So back to the trenches, comrades. Also means I will be having wild consultation with workers about their views on the future of the organization and will act further on the basis of the majority view which members express about strategic options which they prefer to pursue. And I know that the organizations that have suspended their participation, anticipating that NUMSA will be replaced by Limusa tomorrow, anticipating that I will be shown the door, have called their special national executive committees to consult the members and have produced a pamphlet to ask members to consider serious options, and that they will then convene in a joint national executive committee meeting on the 4th and the 5th of November of May. That's where I will get my tune. From now, I will return full-time being the organizer of Workers' Fight Back Strategy as per the 11th National Congress resolution. And elaborated by the unions that have suspended their participation in the CC. I will be found everywhere, marching with workers, mobilizing them, reinforcing the recruitment of workers to reach out to the 71% of them outside the unions, negotiating, leading campaigns against labor brokers, e-tolls, exploitation, job losses, service delivery, poor delivery of education and healthcare, and so forth. I call on all workers who agreed to this program to close the door on factional divisions that have sapped our energy and join the mobilization effort of the working class. So I was saying to other comrades yesterday, don't mourn, organize. Don't mourn, organize. When we're facing the crisis that we face, job losses that are becoming a wave again in this country, don't mourn, organize. When we're facing the prospect of being reduced into permanent temporals, notwithstanding the legislation that have been passed by the government in January, don't mourn, organize. When we go back to our township and face an inferior infrastructure, leaving behind the world-class infrastructure in the former whites-only suburbs, don't mourn, organize. When we need to revolt against the apartheid wage structure that we inherited from the system of colonialism, and now we need to mobilize for better wages of our members, do not mourn, mobilize. When we need to speak out against the conditions our people are subjected to in the public hospitals, humiliated in long queues only to be told that there are no antiretrovirals today and that there is no Panado, don't mourn, organize. When you see the future of our children thrown into the dustbin by the fact that 52% of our kids do not arrive at matric as we speak, and only about 15% of those who would have originally registered to go to grade R, don't mourn, organize. When we see workers being exploited by the brutal exploiters, the labor brokers, those human traffickers, and you know that you can defend them with the amendment that have come through in January, do not mourn, mobilize. And that's how we will build the unity of workers on the ground, comrades. We don't need all of this. We don't need these shenanigans. We don't need these shenanigans. And let me add, when we see leaders embezzling the thousands and millions of our rands, don't mourn, organize. And that's all we need. Thank you very much. So, the media is now allowed to ask questions. I've taken 1 hour, 5 minutes. I need a pen, I need somebody who can help me. So, Ranjani, you are the first, followed by Harja, Miriam, the stalwart, Jamela, Steve. So far, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Vavi. I'm Zwelinzima from the Daily Maverick. Your statement says you're not resigning, but you just will not be attending meetings. Does this mean you stay in your office at Cosatu House until you hear from the Federation? Secondly, in your statement you said this is the end of the road, it now requires a new approach. What does that mean exactly? Thirdly, the supporters of NUMSA attending here, NUMSA is expelled from Cosatu. Are they here on your invitation? Thank you.
Haja.
Hajra Margie, Power News. Firstly, does you not resigning mean that you still have hope that internal democracy or in Cosatu will result in you being reaffirmed at national conference or NUMSA being brought back into the fold? Secondly, you've always said what cannot be won in the streets can't be won in the boardroom. The reality is that it is being won in the boardroom. After Zola Tsotsi at ESCOM met with NUM on Thursday afternoon, Zola Tsotsi then issued an instruction that suggesting that 1,000 workers belonging to NUMSA be fired. And while you are here in this boardroom, the EFF is winning SRC elections at major universities around the country. In fact, I think they're now at Wits University. So what does going to the ground actually mean?
I don't want to take too many questions so that I don't answer them adequately. The new approach is what I ended sorry. The new approach is what I ended with. You will not win what you have not won in the streets in the boardroom. Full stop. It is the masses on the ground who are yearning for a Cosatu that is relevant to their interest as workers. And those masses are saying to us, forget about the suspensions, forget about the disbandment of the structures, forget about seconding and the non-seconding of those who are seen to be in the wrong side of the powerful factions. Forget about dismissals or not being dismissed. What is at stake here is a country that have not been able to solve the most important challenges facing the working class. Where have you seen this being tolerated? A country sitting on the wealth we are sitting on, but with a 35% unemployment rate. Of course, if you compare us with other middle-income countries, then we are number one in the whole world when it comes to unemployment. Where have you seen a country sitting with so much wealth displayed in our eyes all the time with 60% of its youth unemployed? Where have you seen a country sitting with so much wealth moving from competing with the most unequal societies to being number one most unequal society in the whole world? Where have you seen a country with 54% of its population living in poverty, like ours? Or where have you seen a situation where 12 million of our people are unable to put a plate of food on the table? Which country can tolerate that, and which citizens will tolerate that perpetually moving forward? Now we are approaching 21 years of our democracy. If you want to know what is the nature of divisions, that's the source of divisions, politically. Nothing else. But it is coded sometimes. The corrupt people say, no, we are divided, even though they don't know what they're talking about, ideologically, politically. But that's the issue. So I'm saying, Ranjani and Harja, the only response to that is to forget about the boardroom shenanigans, mobilize the working class in the streets, in the workplaces, in the factories, in the mines, everywhere. And that's the new approach. And that's what I'm going to do, dismissed or not dismissed. So, NUMSA came here. Did I invite them? By the way, it's not true that NUMSA is here only. Just look around. Look around who is here. Maybe NUMSA is maybe in a slight majority, but just look around who is here. This is not just NUMSA, because I know this attempt to always paint NUMSA as a ho-ho that we must run away from all the time is something that has been said by the propagandists everywhere. This is my bottom line, why I will not go. Let me just repeat this. There are two reasons why I can't go to the CC. I have no conscience, I have no guts to, in the face of 365,000 workers thrown out of a federation they love and have built from inception, go run into the CC to save my job and close the door behind them. I can't do that. If that becomes a dismissible offense, then I'm prepared to live with the consequence of my conscience. Secondly, the second reason, I can't go to a CC which I know will not be attended by about 6 or 7 of Cosatu unions. And when they have written us a letter to say we are suspending our participation, the responsible thing to do would have, as I say in the statement, stop everything else and focus on that as a crisis, because that have never ever happened in the 30-year history of the Federation. To close the door and pretend that you can go on with a business as usual when you are leaving hundreds and thousands of workers out of the Federation is to play into the hands of what Fikile Majola said in this CC. We want a split. That's what he said. We want a split, and we want to start a federation afresh without Vavi, without NUMSA. That's what they said as the faction. And the CEC represent a triumph of that agenda. And I am not going to legitimize it by my presence. And if that call for a unity amongst workers demands that I should be dismissed, then I'm prepared to be a sacrificial lamb. Because in any case, comrades, it's not just NUMSA that is being dealt with. Go to all of these unions, a lot of them. People are being suspended without a hearing. In mass, people are being dismissed without a hearing. In mass, people are being expelled. In mass, structures that are not towing the line are being disbanded left, right, and center. You don't fix that by promising to patch more. You stand and stop and address the crisis. That's all that I'm asking for. So if that is dismissible, thank you very much. Because then, do I have a hope? No, I can never close the door on any chance of unity of workers. Of course, I'm desperate for unity. I want it desperately, because I know the price we have paid already for being in the state we are in. It's a very dear price we've paid. If there is a chance, as I say in the statement, that a door opens for people to say, oh, of course, we've learned. We now think that the only way to resolve is the crisis is through an inclusive process involving all of the Cosatu unions, including NUMSA. I will be the first to arrive in such a meeting. So, Yolisa? Oh no, Mire. Why are you sitting down? Yeah.
I go. Okay, GS, hi, it's Natasha from the Business Day. 2 questions. Two questions. First is with regard to the ANC. You say that the call for the ANC to renew its intervention is meaningless in the context of the refusal to include NUMSA. If the ANC decides to include NUMSA, it's having an NEC this weekend, would you go back to the drawing board with the party? Do you think that there's still an opportunity there? And with regard to the alliance, the president last weekend mentioned that divisions in the alliance were not a good idea, and that he hoped to get an alliance meeting together. Would you like to be part of that meeting? Do you think that that would help in the current juncture?
Okay. Look, the ANC have told us categorically, not once, that the only way we can resolve this crisis is when NUMSA is returned back in the Federation. That's what the ANC says. People are defying that. Maybe someone else more important is telling them to do so. But the ANC has been categorical. The only way of resolving the crisis in the federation is to embark on an inclusive process which will involve participation of NUMSA in such a process. Any other thing else is a farce, will not bring unity. That's what the ANC says. It have issued statement and its leaders have been on record all over repeating the same thing. They are being defied. They are being defied in pursuance of what Fikile Majola said, applauded by a faction, that we want a split, and this general secretary and these metal workers must be surgically removed. And those who insist on the participation of those two in the process of unity, bye-bye, all of them, which is what is effectively happening. So that's what my response is, that, so no, yes, NUMSA, I don't know when are they meeting the ANC, will meet the ANC. NUMSA have said, will engage the ANC. NUMSA is not running away from engaging with the ANC or anybody else. I know it has been difficult to get the dates, I'm aware of that detail, but NUMSA will speak for itself. I don't want to divert the attention to what I'm raising here. So will I not divert the attention to political debates. Because I know the next question, what is mobilization? What about the ANC? You are a member. You are a member of the SACP and so forth. No answering of all of the political questions. My point is, I have a responsibility together with the collective that agrees that we must mobilize workers, full stop. And that's what we will do. And secondly, by the way, my political ideology will not change and have not changed. I believe in a national democratic revolution. I got that here. And that revolution, I believe, is about addressing three interrelated grievances: the class, the gender, and the national oppression of the majority by a small minority. That's what I believe. I believe in a future of non-racialism, non-sexism, a united democratic South Africa that is prosperous. I will not change that. I am a child of the Freedom Charter, but I insist that all of its clauses, without exception, must be implemented. In particular, two of them. The land shall be shared and the wealth of the country shall be shared. That's what I am. That's what I will always be. And that's what this mobilization will be about on the ground, because those demands enshrined in the Freedom Charter, I believe, are the demands that are the aspirations of the overwhelming majority of South Africans. So don't you ask me, Ukuti, what about this? No, the issue now is that the workers' movement is imploding. Our attention must be to try and do whatever we can to build that unity of workers on the ground. That's what my response is. I'm sorry for the long-winded response, Miriam. You listen?
I think it's the veteran.
The veteran, Jan. Jan de Lange.
Yeah. Okay, what this means is that you've actually given up on the boardroom battle and you're taking the battle outside. There are contradictions in that. What happens, I mean, I believe NUMSA is still busy with a legal effort to force its way into the Special National Congress. And what you announced today is probably means, and it would have probably happened anyway, that you will be suspended tomorrow or the day after. What happens if NUMSA does succeed with its efforts to get access to the Special National Congress and you're not there? Secondly, you say with a clear conscience that you wash your hands of any financial wrongdoings. just as a matter of record, can you do the same with the corporate governance issues in Kopano Kamatla? Can you say the same about that? Thank you. Well, hands gone very absolutely clean. Thank you.
Yolisa?
Yolisa, I said it's television news. The other faction that is opposed to your faction clearly has no interest in working with you, either here or outside. And so your presence in Cosatu Central is problematic, at least to them. And it causes disunity contrary to what you say you want within Cosatu or the Federation. And since 2012, worker issues have largely been ignored. And all you're doing is you basically engaged in factional battles in Cosatu. Shouldn't you rather just resign and be one less problem for the other leaders? Perhaps they would deal with the issues better. The second thing is, as a principled national office bearer of Cosatu, they are, as my colleague had asked earlier on, the NUMSA members here, they are in the majority, as represented by good Carl Klute, there in front. Shouldn't you at least say they should be outside because they have been expelled? We know that we're very vocal against their expulsion, but they have been expelled from Cosatu. And today they're inside the boardroom at Cosatu headquarters as a principled NUB. Shouldn't you have said, stay outside? You might be supporting me, but stay outside. You haven't said that. We are aware that there are other unions, but they're few and far in between. Thank you.
Okay, let me answer those. You want to, so that I can't remember your name, and my apologies for that.
My name is Hilary Wainwright from Red Pepper magazine in the UK. I just wanted to ask you to say more about the practical implications of leaving the boardroom shenanigans and putting the emphasis on all your energies into mobilising and organising. Just a little bit more about through what kinds of organisational structures, how will you do this organising? How will you work with others who are of a similar spirit? I think trade unionists internationally will be interested in understanding this practical question.
Yeah, my pen is on strike. Okay, let me answer those because some of them are quite fundamental. What happens if NUMSA wins in court? Then hallelujah. Because then I can go to a Congress which will have a prospect, if NUMSA and all of these other problems are solved, of being a platform of workers to exercise their democracy. Let me repeat. If NUMSA was to win in court, then I will be in that Congress. I will immediately submit an appeal if I'm dismissed. But I will not go to a Congress which excludes any worker. Full stop. Because such a Congress is going to be a farce. If any worker gets excluded, I'm not there. It's a principle to me. Let me take that principle further, Yolisa. How could, after saying that, then say to any person who rightfully belongs here, stay out, legitimize a decision taken to dismiss 340,000 workers then, now 365,000 workers? I said, it's against my being. I have no conscience to do such a thing. I just don't have guts. Leave that to others who see nothing wrong with closing a door to 365,000. I can't. That's the point that I'm saying. So on the issue of hands are clean, I mean it, Jan. These hands I claim, even if I have to repeat somebody who was then contradicted later in court. Not one forensic audit have come back to Cosatu to say we did find that some worker money went into the back pocket of the Cosatu General Secretary. Not one. Not one of those two auditors have found that I acted dishonestly. Not one of them have made a finding that I robbed these members of the Federation to enrich myself. And for that, I am very proud, because I wonder how many of the people who were commissioning the forensic audit will come out clean after being subjected to the same scrutiny. And some of them have to resort into mass suspension of their leaders for mere question about the finances of their unions. You're asking now a question of corporate governance in relation to Kopanoki Matla. I accept that I'm a General Secretary of the Federation, and therefore automatically, together with all members of the CC, shares a responsibility in relation to whatever goes wrong there. But please be fair to all of us. I am not a trustee of Kopanoki Matla. I have never been one from inception. If anybody does shenanigans there, I can't be held personally responsible to the exclusion of the rest of the collective of the national office bearers and or the Central Executive Committee itself. Yes, the FSB report is a scary document to read in relation to what happened to members' pension funds under the stewardship of Kopanoki Matla. We've sought to get answers. We are not getting the answers. By now, if we were united focus on the workers' issues, we would have long went to report that in the police station, as the FSB has done already. But don't say the members' funds must be answerable somewhere in the 9th floor exclusively, and everybody else is not guilty. That's my response to that. Yolisa, I've answered you.
I asked also if you shouldn't just resign.
Why should I? I've already explained that. If I was to resign, then I would be committing a serious blunder of disappointing the members of the Federation who elected me, notwithstanding the attempts of some of the leaders of the unions. What do I say then? I've abandoned you, knowing how much confidence they have placed in my shoulders. I can't do that. But if I am dismissed, then that's a separate issue. History will have absolved me. Everybody will write Utibeki. Utoshiwe. Ukotiwe. Then that's something else. But I will not walk unless they do so. So the ball is in the CC hand, as I have said. The ball is in their court. If my insistence, and let me repeat, and because that's my message, this is the principal reason why I call this press conference. If my insistence that we must find a solution to the crisis of the Federation, which will include the participation of NUMSA in that process, and I get dismissed for writing a letter pleading with the unions to look at that in that way, then I will be dismissed and history will be written that Bankoshile for making a plea that 365,000 workers be brought in the Federation. If I get dismissed for saying, but how do I participate in a structure where 6, 7 of our unions are refusing to participate because they have raised a grievance? I don't address the grievance. All I say, come and engage, knowing that once they are here, the first thing, vote. Let's vote. That's what is happening here. Vote. Let's vote. Out. When you are out, you participated in the democratic process. Respect democratic centralism. Democratic centralism is only revolutionary when it is itself democratic. You don't come here without a mandate, such as other leaders have done. No National Executive Committee for 4 years, and you are the one who passes motions to dismiss other people. So that's not democracy. That's a tragedy. That's a tragedy. Thank you very much. My colleagues, I didn't get your name, but I know you're writing for the UK newspapers. Ours is very clear, and let me repeat this. We are refusing to be drawn into an endless dog-eat-dog shenanigans that have teared the only instrument workers have in their hand apart. We are refusing to be part any further of attempts deliberately designed outside the structures of the Federation to divide this organization and to make it useless when our members are crying out for decisive leadership to respond to their plight. So, as I said in Port Elizabeth, addressing the SATU members, by the way, a genuine structure of SATU invites me. Ngoba kukho abantu abangakwazi ukuya pha bona. Baqombile. They can't go there themselves. I will go everywhere, by the way. Suspended or not suspended, I will go. Yesterday I was addressing the SOS. Say this in public. Yeah. And they are here. What do I say to them, Yolisa? Should I say to them, sorry, you have been dismissed for asking that there must be a forensic audit into the allegation that the union have lost 148 million rands, and that now I will act in a manner that excludes them? I can't. It's just not me. It's not my conscience that I will ever do such a thing. So what do? I tell them that actually we wrote a letter with 17 allegations to these leaders. Answer. Why and how did you take union money to go and watch a World Cup with a bodyguard? Answer that. If you say no, the only way to answer that is to dismiss everybody in the union asking that question. Don't ask me to be part of it. That's the central point that I'm communicating. It's not just about this CC. It's about the host of shenanigans that are happening in the entirety of the Federation. You're saying that I'm being factional. How do I explain to the SIPAO members that it is all fine when their union have not had an NEC for 4 years, and that the Congress that should have happened in September last year remains in abeyance because the leadership is scared to answer serious questions about the finances of the union? Do you want me to then say there is central democratic centralism? I must shine and sideline those workers? I can't. If you dismiss me for that and you call that factionalism, then fine. History will record that I associated myself with the people who were dismissed in their unions for asking what have happened to our money. I It is a very emotional issue that people are asking me to do. I cannot do that. Not in the name of the revolution, which is actually a counter-revolutionary act. I can't do that even in the name of democratic centralism. It is wrong. It is simply wrong to dismiss a union for holding a different political view and dismiss it with all of its members. I can't agree to that. It's a matter of principle. That's not how I understand the foundations of this federation. We've always had different political and ideological differences here. We've never, ever even considered once to dismiss a single leader. This thing that is being done goes even beyond the bounds of Stalinism. Yes. It's unheard of in the history of mankind to dismiss ordinary workers from their organization because you don't agree with their political views. Away from being a broad trade union church into a streamlined political party. Yeah. Cosatu is not a political party. It is a workers' organization. Everybody should be welcomed to be in the federation, irrespective of the political views they hold. You can't dismiss people for that. I can't agree with that. If that is dismissible, then dismiss me. I can't agree to that because let me tell you this. When the Soviet Union under Stalin was doing worse things than what we're beginning to see here in South Africa happening, there were people applauding all the time. They issued statements when people were being hanged in the streets for holding different opinions to the General Secretary. Where is the Soviet Union today? Where are those unions? Dissolved by an act of one right-winger, not one protest. Because by the time that happens, that Communist Party was completely irrelevant to the interest of the workers. This is a route towards Stalinism. I have no doubt about it. This is an attempt to beat people to line, to hold a particular political view, to say yes pass, no, 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 I can't agree to that. And that's what this thing is about. So you think that I must be dismissed? Fine. Workers will decide what to do about me. Is there any need to go beyond this? Oh. Steve.
Thanks, Mr. Vavi. Good afternoon. Stephen Critters, Eyewitness News. And I should recognize Mr. Kluti and the brave shade of blue that he's wearing.
Have you seen how fast he has great in the past 3 months?
Mr. Vavi, I accept the principle, Mr. Vavi, that you don't want to resign, that you have a mandate from workers, that you don't want to disappoint workers who voted you there. But to a political cynic, which I think I'm employed to be, it could also be said that this would allow you to leave Cosatu with a bigger constituency than if you resigned. In other words, would you accept and acknowledge that there might be a political advantage to being thrown out rather than to be leaving? Thanks.
No, Steve, this is not about calculation about who's going to leave with what chunk of workers away from the federation that workers have built through their blood and sweat and pain. This is about prioritizing the unity of workers all the time, irrespective of the situation we face from time to time. Nothing else. I will not leave and leave behind that 2,400 workers who sang and danced in the Cosatu Congress to say we need a new way forward. And they said 4 ways forward. 1, bury the apartheid wage gap and in its place build a new incomes and a wage policy. I will not leave them because I know why they came to that conclusion. 2, the mandate was fight for a radical economic transformation. I will not leave. I will fight for that radical economic transformation, and for that I need no permission from no one. 3, they said, let's rebuild these unions. They are losing touch with their members. There's a massive social gap developing. Marikana Warrens tell us that. Let's retrain these shopkeepers. I want to be part of a movement to do that. 4thly, they said, let's engineer the Lula moment from below. Let's restructure this alliance so that it can be an alliance for fundamental transformation and not an alliance for voting. That's what that workers' parliament said. We must do that on the ground. So why should I walk away? If I walk away, I've told you what will happen in this country tonight. The elites will have such a joy. I'm not going to give them that joy. Yes, I can't see now. Oh, lots of people. Why are you having matters arising? Continue, my dear comrade.
Dear Minister from Power FM, first, if you could perhaps just tell us which union hasn't had an NEC meeting for 4 years, and the meeting that took their bodyguard overseas. Secondly, where will you be getting the resources from to do your Back to Basics campaign within Cosatu? I understand that Cosatu is not doing so well financially. And then also, Jess, you've been at the helm of Cosatu for 16 years. To what extent are you willing to take responsibility for some of the crisis that you say it's in? Thank you.
The resources, these workers will decide where the money comes from. All we know is that we can't postpone the struggle because there is no resources. When we can put the resources together, we will. And the second part of your question, the union that have not held any meeting, but that is very ready to move motions to expel people here is CIPAO. You have written about that yourselves, left, right, and center. And you know why, because you, the media, have been writing stories about what's happening in that union in relation to allegations of corruption. You don't want me to repeat what we have been saying yourselves. Which union have taken the bodyguards? Is the CIPAO, is the SAMU. SAMU Deputy General Secretary faces an allegation that he took a bodyguard to a World Cup at the union expense. There are 16 other very serious allegations, including the fact that one of the person who is said to be a consultant has been arrested and have been denied bail. You are writing about those stories every day. Should I take responsibility? I've said so. I said all of us, I can't escape that. All of us bear a responsibility to varying degrees about the crisis at hand. Nobody can say, I am an angel, perfect, committed, no mistake, nowhere. No, that's not what we're saying. But it's not me who make a statement in the CC and in public to say we have decided that the split in the federation is unavoidable. It's not me. It is Fiki Limajor and the faction that he was leading. It's not me who made such a very painful statement. So that's the point that I'm raising. Let me start with the sister behind you.
Thank you, JS. Slim from Jacaranda FM. I just wanted to ask regarding the depleting funds of Cosatu, how long can this
political fund last, if you know how much longer it will last? And can you confirm, is this depletion of funds caused by NUMSA's expulsion?
There's almost nothing left in that political fund. None. It can't do what it did in this month and the last month, bottom line. So unless something happens, the staff will be the first to get the wrath of what is happening in the Federation. Secondly, the impact of the expulsion of NUMSA financially is that the Federation lost 11 million rands annually. NUMSA was paying close to 1 million rands every month. You can't just say overnight, that's off, is out, and expect no consequences financially. Huge consequences. People are denying here, they say, no, that's not the reason. What else? Where is the money? It's with the people that have been dismissed. 11 million rands, they're keeping it. Next question.
Thanks, GS. Totally from eNCA. This question has somewhat been asked, but I'm going to ask it differently. I can't ignore the amount of people that are in this room in the NUMSA t-shirts, and we know that NUMSA has been expelled from Cosatu. I can't ignore the fact that for the first time, I think you're speaking openly about factions existing in Cosatu. I can't ignore that you also are able to mention people's names publicly about who's doing what. This, to me, looks to be an agitation for you to be kicked out. Yes, I know you're saying that you're not going out, but I think this act of defiance is engineered so that you are kicked out whenever it is that you're hoping to be kicked out. You know that tomorrow there's a CEC meeting taking place. Is that perhaps what you're hoping they will come to tomorrow, that they kick you out, basically?
Only I've answered your question over and over again. You're now going to make me to sound like a broken record. I'm saying, Toli, I have no conscience to tell any worker that he or she has been dismissed from the Federation they founded, they built, they developed to be the giant that it is today. I don't have isibindi. Kuphela isingisi ngo andinaso isibindi. Andinaso isibindi sokwenza lokho. Abanye banayo, they think that that's revolutionary. I think it is an act to cause divisions deliberately in the organization. That's what I'm saying. So I didn't invite, by the way, these guys. They are providing me with the support. Do you want me to say, go away, please, man, I don't want to be seen next to you? I won't do that. Second, I have been very consistent about the challenge of divisions in the Federation. And those who can trace history must do this. Go to the Central Committee. It was the 4th Central Committee Cosatu had in 2007, April or May, at Kempton Park, Iselen Park, where for the first time, as part of the collective, I wrote about how we should avoid a split and divisions. I can share with you that report. Why I was saying so? In Brazil, CUT was splitting at that moment. In fact, CUT have split 3 times. The KMU of the Philippines, one of the most militant Cosatu alike and strong ally, was splitting because of its close association and relationships with the political party, the Communist Party of the Philippines. So I write how to avoid this thing ever happening in South Africa. One of the biggest things I said, you want to avoid a split, never ever close down people when they have different views. Tolerate them here. Don't close the space for democracy, because if you do that, it is almost predictable that people will go outside to get that power you are taking off them in their constitutional structures. How I wish people could have listened. 2007 it was, in the run-up to Mangaung. I'm openly speaking now because people are lying to members. I'm being painted as this destructive force everywhere by people who will never allow me to come and speak to their structures. It's closed for certain leaders of the Federation. In the meantime, there is a systematic campaign to present me as ill-disciplined, a factionalist, somebody who only respond to the issues raised by the 9 unions. I've called this press conference to set the record straight and to speak directly to those workers who are being misled. So yes, comrades, here's my dilemma, as I was saying. 138 provincial chairpersons, secretaries, treasurers, regional chairpersons, secretaries, treasurers, shop stewards, union officials have been summarily dismissed in SAMU for asking a question. Why this union few years ago was sitting on a 177 million rands in surplus reserves. And by then they asked that question in April last year, the union was already sitting only on 50 million. When you ask that question, the response, dismiss, suspend, expel, 138 of them. Then you say there's democratic centralism. Respect it. I can't. So I have an open association with those comrades. They are holding a national meeting on the 6th, on the 11th of April. I will address it. Because the Federation in its current state can do almost nothing to resolve their issue. They have been dismissed. They have spent estimated 23 million rands, have won 9 high court victories to get them back into their work. The leadership brings them into an endless appeal and further suspends them forever and ever. Do you want me to be associated with that? How will I be able to challenge the government corruption when I know inside we are facing such allegations that people are refusing to talk to? I can go on and on and on about that. By the way, that animal corruption is actually at the center of destruction of worker unity of this federation. Yeah. It is at the center. Is it at the center? Don't be misled by the people who say there's a forensic audit against Vavi, which they can find no evidence. At the center of the division is the corruption monster that have come inside our movement. Yes. That's what is happening. So, you want me to say, no, I can't speak about that, or else I will be dismissed, I don't respect decisions. No, sorry, I can't agree. Then I'm prepared to be a victim of that. But I know workers, I will be a victim in the boardroom, as they know, by the way, but never in the streets. I can walk down in any street with any of them and you will see what will happen. Yes, you are the last one, my sister.
Thank you very much.
I have to bring it to
Two questions. Firstly, Mr. Vavi, if you could perhaps be able to just describe, as of tomorrow, what would your day be like? Would you be here or not? And secondly, you say that your conscience cannot tolerate pushing away a union like NUMSA, but could your conscience then tolerate pushing away Willie Madisha, Joe Nkosi, and other leaders that were purged during your reign? Thank you.
Thank you very much for asking that question, because there's so much misinformation about that and about many other things, by the way. So let me explain to you what happened. Willie Madisha goes into the newspapers, make an allegation that the General Secretary of Cosatu have abused his credit card by taking his girlfriend to watch the World Cup in Germany, 2006. The CECs respond by putting together a committee of 5 presidents. And it says, Willie, bring your evidence to this committee so that we can act on it. He never did that until this day. People think that somehow indeed it is that I did go around with a girlfriend to Germany with a Cosatu credit card. He didn't bring the evidence. As if that was not enough, before the matter could be resolved, Willie Madisha goes again to the media and make an allegation that the SACP General Secretary have received a 500,000 rands in a black refusal bag. Again, the same committee says, bring that evidence, go to the police. He doesn't do that. And then the CC decides that no, he is working against the unity of the federation, not me. I have no such power. You want to answer to itching to, I don't want to close you out because these are facts of history.
This is exactly what happened to NUMSA, because the CEC then decided that NUMSA is working against the alliance. You're justifying one particular action and you're denouncing it when the exact same thing happened to NUMSA.
I can't believe that you are making even that comparison. You're saying that one worker who has a responsibility to lead the federation as a president, his actions must be, in terms of the discipline in the organization, must be equated to dismissal of 340,000 workers, now 365. You think that that's the same in the scale? I don't agree. Let me tell you the impact of what you're saying. I feel it every day. I've been the public face of the federation. Every time I go to any garage, I meet expelled members of NUMSA from the federation. They ask us a question, what had happened? We are told that we are no longer in Cosatu. We are dismissed. You know how painful that is? I felt it the very same weekend after that decision was taken. I felt a drive to Durban. That's where I normally get to cool down before coming back for more energy. I stopped at Harry Smith, my dear sister, and workers came running to me. We are dismissed from your federation. What have we done? No, comrades, there is a point that there was a Congress. They asked, when was this Congress? In 2013, we don't know, but we love this federation. How do you explain that? How do you relate to that? How do you sleep at night with your conscience intact when you can't confront and tell those workers that they are being dismissed for saying that in their Congress of 1,000 delegates, your union took a resolution not to vote for the ANC, but to allow members to vote for it if that's what they wish. And for that, you will be dismissed. You can't make an equation. It doesn't exist. I don't agree with you. You're the last question. When somebody decided to put up his own red shirt. We appreciate the support.
The name is Sankelo Masero from eNCA. Mr. Vavi, the
From?
ANC from eNCA.
Oh, yes. Our friends.
The ANC is meeting this weekend for the NEC, and one of its agendas is Cosatu House. And President Zuma, at the reburial of J.B. Marks, asked that all the alliance leaders to meet at a summit. And you were there, you were delivering a speech. Will you be attending that summit that the president has asked for? And then you refer to some corrupted individual who says the differences within the Cosatu Alliance are ideological and political. Who is that individual that you're referring to? And what is your current relations with the president of Cosatu? You know what I mean? Thank you.
Thank you very much, South Station, for asking all of those questions. We answer all the questions. You are the last person who will take a question from. When the president of the ANC was speaking in the funeral of J.B. Marks, I was present. So when he said, we will, as the leader of the alliance, convene you, expect action from our side, I was there. And I said to myself, if such a meeting happens to look at what happened to the unity of the alliance, I will be there, having lots of things to say, which I've written them, by the way. It's this pile. Lots of them. So, yes, we will go. Yes, we will go. What was the other question?
Your relation with President Zuma.
The relationship. At the personal level, I must say the relationship with the Cosatu president have always been cordial. We speak, we exchange, we disagree. He sits in a different faction now in the federation than the other faction I belong to. The difference is that I don't deny factionalism. I openly admit that the faction developed in the Congress. We were there. And those factions have been maintained all along. So that's my response to that question. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades, all of you who are here, thank you very much for coming over. And I hope that you will read. And we're going to ensure that we put this thing up as soon as possible. My family spokesperson is here. It looks like his job may come back very soon. And who may be the link with yourselves, what if dramatic things happen over this week. I don't know what will happen to that poor Patrick Craven, and good luck to him. But thank you very much for all of you for being here. Please read. Please read. Please read. Yes. I jumped lots of things here. Please read. Thank you very much.
No, I'm actually looking for him.
What is
Will you do a quick one-on-one? Just quick. You can take this one.